And joining us right now is pilot and aviation expert Mark Weinkratz. Mark, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us here this morning. I don't know if you heard any of that press conference, but I got to ask you, he mentioned that the flight patterns were typical. They were normal. The skies were clear last night. The temperature was 50 degrees, so it didn't seem like weather could have been a factor. How does something like this happen?
Well, as you say, these are normal patterns, but it's an incredibly congested area. The aircraft in some places actually cross flight paths. There are 3 runways at D.C., and it's right next to one of the most restricted airspaces, actually prohibited airspaces in the country. So it's well surveilled. It's just 2 aircraft that should not have overlapped at the same point, at the same altitude, at the same time. Did that last night, unfortunately, and we're seeing the consequences this morning.
In a situation like this, why wouldn't the helicopter perhaps have maneuvered in a different direction, maybe flown higher or lower to avoid this?
Well, of course, had they seen the aircraft, they would have done that. I'm getting information this morning that this was actually a training exercise, so we're talking about a lower experience level. And the first time you fly at night as a pilot, even though it's the same aerodynamics, the airplane performs the same, there's extra impulses, there are extra external forces that act on you that make it more complicated. The ground lights, along with the stars, aircraft moving, cars moving on the ground, there's a lot of clutter out there, and it's difficult, even for an experienced pilot, to sometimes peek out an aircraft they're supposed to see.
So then the question becomes, why would there be a training mission over this particular airspace?
Well, they operate in the area. As the FAA director said, this was a normal route, and training has to go on for those bases. And being part of the training would include some night flying.
So you believe at this point this was completely an accident, given what your knowledge of this area and given your knowledge of just how congested the airspace is around Reagan National?
It's really early right now, but now there are reports that the tower actually instructed the helicopter to pass behind the aircraft. And when we see that documented, they're going to be looking at the air traffic control transcripts. We've talked before about how they may have been on different frequencies for approach control because the military uses a different set of frequencies than the civilian sector.
Interesting.
So they may not have even known each other was there. And under normal circumstances, there'd be no reason for them to know the other one was there.
How soon will we know what led to this crash? And at this point, I mean, what do you think the cause was?
It's a reach for me to go ahead and give an opinion based on limited information. But if, according to the FAA, the approaches for the airports are laid in stone. You hit the same point at the same altitude and the same speed over and over again. And that's how the controller, the tower, it's a complicated job, especially for the controller in the tower and approach control, to orchestrate all these aircraft flying in mixed patterns on their normal cycles. So if the PSA aircraft was where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there, the helicopter would be at fault, which is a big word here right now, but they were instructed, if they had been instructed, to avoid the other aircraft. Who knows what was going on in the cockpit of the helicopter at that time? The instruction sometimes is overwhelming for a student, and you look in the wrong place and you see an aircraft, you misidentify and think that's the one they told you to see while there's another one closer and more of a threat.
I want to read what Trump wrote on Truth Social yesterday. He wrote, "It is a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane?" So is that what happened in this particular situation? They asked, "Do you see that plane?"
That's my understanding right now. So the tower controller was doing their job. Understand that right now, tower controllers, radar controllers, sector controllers, they're all overworked. There's a shortage of these people as well. And they have a zero fail attitude. If they make a mistake, there are serious consequences. DC is an incredibly busy airspace area. There's the prohibited airspace, restricted airspace off to the east. So everything has to be channeled and filtered up and down the river. And it makes for a great deal of congestion. Right now, as I said, if the PSA plane was where they were supposed to be at the time, and they're going to be focused on landing. Their eyes are out front for the most part, checking to make sure the right altitude and speed to get in the aircraft on the ground safely. The helicopter under training exercise, the first indications today are the burden was probably on the helicopter. But as I say, we say that with great reservation until we know all the facts.
You know, we listened to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who said everyone who flies a plane should expect to get to their destination safely. And he said, you should feel safe when you fly. When things like this happen, the American public automatically starts to get concerned. Are we safe? Is it safe even, you know, around Reagan National, the way you describe all these different flight patterns, these three landing strips areas? Is it safe for the American public? What would you say to someone right now who is watching this and very concerned?
I'd say it's absolutely safe. I'd go down the aircraft or put my children on a plane today. I've been in and out of Reagan National dozens and dozens of times, and it always poses a little bit of a challenge to the pilot, especially if there's any weather, because the runway is so short and the tarmac area is so small. It's not just getting into the airport, it's getting around on it sometimes because even the ground is so congested. It is safe to get out and fly. Don't let it interfere with business. Don't let it interfere with seeing people. Go to that wedding, go on that vacation, and enjoy yourself. The FAA, the NTSB will all get to this. And the unfortunate thing is when we correct the mistakes for this, we actually get ahead and prevent the same type of thing happening in the future. But we can't go back and fix the mistakes that were made last night.
Pilot and aviation expert Mark Weinkrantz, we certainly appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.